Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on the icon to see what I've got to say. Well, tonight I am up at Wascally Way, which is beautiful tonight. It's been grey and dull and a bit of a meh day, and there was promise of a nice end today, and I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. And look at it now; it's beautiful. Look, little reservoir in the background, little fella with these binoculars watching the birds and the grouse. It's just lovely up here tonight, and for once I've been up here many times this year and there's no wind or just a very slight breeze. In fact, very little. You can't even, yeah, there's a little bit of hair moving there. So yeah, so as I said, thank you for clicking on the icon and seeing what I've got to say this week. So I have been back to the car barn in Beamish. The last video was a few weeks ago, the show a few weeks ago, and tonight the theme was German cars. And it was a good show. It was a good show. It wasn't as busy this week compared to the last one, which I think was down to the weather, because I'd only made a decision. I was going to do something a bit different tonight and take my bike there. I had the car there the other day of the week, so I decided to take my bike. The weather was looking dry, it wasn't looking great, so yeah, I thought I'll take the bike for a change, see how I feel going to the show on my bike. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, being the car barn wasn't as busy as it was last time round. It was still very busy, don't get us wrong, it was still very busy, just not as busy. At least when I was there, it wasn't as busy as the last time. So I'm just realised I'm pointing my camera right at that poor bloke, and he probably thinks I'm recording him, but actually I'm recording myself, so I'm just doing it ever so slightly. So yeah, the car barn was great. Lots of German cars, as I've said. I'm going to do a little montage in a few minutes of just the footage that I took, and to give you a feeling of what was going on and some of the vehicles that was there. But like I said before, I decided to go in on my bike this time. So normally the car barn, to give them an idea of how many people are turning up, you've got to register your vehicle. Where with the bike, you just turn up on the night. So I decided to go to work on my bike this morning, go straight from work to the car barn. Quick question about bikes. Does anyone feel a little bit cheeky having a bike? So, for example, the car barn, at the minute, they said it might change, but at the minute, you don't have to register you turn up on your bike. You just kind of turn up and go and park with the bikes. Same with work. I normally have to reserve a bay, but in the offices I work, they've got motorcycle parking, and you just turn up and park your bike there. You don't have to reserve one. Like nipping into town, if I drive in, it takes us a lot longer to get to work in the car, because on the bike I can go in the bus lanes. So I've had one of them days where I feel really cheeky having a bike, because like I say, I went straight into work, parked in the motorcycle bay, didn't have to ask or request a parking bay, and then I've scooted out of town using the bus lanes, and then gone to the car barn, and just without kind of having to register, I've just went in, and the kind guys just sort of pointed us in the direction I needed to go, basically where all the bikes were. To be fair, there's not as many bikes at the minute. You're probably looking at 30, 40 bikes, 50 at the most, where you've got hundreds of cars. This little fella is moving away. Probably wondering what the weirdo talking to the camera is all about. So yeah, they did say, I think there was a comment on Facebook I read, that if the bike kind of attendance starts to rise, they might have to just manage, and you might have to reserve your space there, just so they can kind of manage the amount of vehicles that are going to be coming and going at the show. But yeah, it was good. So I'm going to put a montage on now of the various vehicles, the bikes that was there. Yet again, really well attended, and really well organised. I mean, the guys up there are doing a great job. I dare say there's a lot of cars and coffee and a lot of kind of businesses are doing these evening meets, and I understand why they're doing them, because they're really, really popular, and it probably brings, you know, majority of people that were at the car barn tonight that had a coffee, or they were having a burger or a beer, or, you know, there was someone had been and bought some food and drink, so it's probably a good stream of income for them. But I do feel like it's one of them things that's a bit saturated. They're all over the place now, and I can't really comment because I've only been to the car barn. I do plan to go to a few other meets over the summer, but I do dare say that the car barn's probably one of the 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 better ones that I've seen coverage of. But all I can say is, look, please, when you're leaving and when you're turning up, just drive sensibly. You know, I've seen a report from the last one that there's a few people were driving ridiculous, and to get in and out of the event, depending on which way you come in, one, you've got to go past a big pub, which you've got to cross the road between the pub and the diner, I think, and, you know, there's kids and families there, and then coming in the other way, you go through like a housing estate, and you know, just drive sensibly. There's no reason to do your pops and bangs and your crackles and your heavy accelerating when you're in built-up areas, because if you keep this up, you know, like other events, they'll be shut down. The police will shut them down. So, you know, if anyone's watching this who's been to the car barn, you know, it's maybe blipped it off a little bit when leaving, so the car pops and bangs. Honestly, you see it every day. I'm not impressed by a car popping and banging, and it's not worth it. I don't want to see that at the risk of losing good events that these people take a lot of time to organise, and unfortunately they can put signs up and whatnot, but there's only a certain amount they can do. So please, if you do go to the car barn, stop popping, banging, cracking, wheel spinning, all the other bits and pieces. I think super cool. Save that for down the coast or something like that, because it's not for this event. So yeah, so here I am going to put on a little reel of, it's quite interesting actually, but I'm in Wascally here, and there's quite a few of the cars have obviously done the same as me. They've left the car barn and decided to go for a drive or a ride up in the hills like myself. So yeah, so I'm going to do a little montage of bits and pieces that I saw at the show, and then I'm going to chat about my Honda CB125R's miles per gallon in real terms, in real life experience, what I am getting. I've been compiling a bit of data over the last few months to give people an idea of what in a real world you should expect as fuel consumption on a Honda CBR125. So anyhow, enjoy the montage that I'm going to play now, and then I will be back in a few minutes. So welcome back. As discussed, as mentioned before, just grabbed a coffee out my bag. I had a quick chat with the guy that had the 4x4 when I was setting my camera up. He thought I was setting up a little fire. I was like, don't be daft, it's so dry up here. So no, got a little bit of data here. I want to chat about miles per gallon on the Honda CB125R. So I think the majority of people who buy these bikes are either new to biking or are looking for a cheap way to commute. So I think you do hear various figures online about the miles per gallon you would expect from a Honda CBR125. I've got a little spreadsheet here that works out the miles per gallon of the bike. And since I've had it, I've been getting anything from 92 miles per gallon all the way up to 119 miles per gallon. Now, I think the tank that I've got at the minute might even go over the 119, because I got the bike in October and it's been a lot colder while I've been learning and while I've been riding over the winter. And I think with the weather warming up and also the bike loosening off a bit, the miles per gallon that I'm getting out of it's starting to creep up a bit. I think there's various reasons. I mean, the 92 miles per gallon, and remember that tank I used, it was a cold day, it was windy, and I rode all the way up to Kielder with a headwind. I didn't want to do the ride. I'd planned the ride, and I got really frustrated because I'd planned the ride in. I had a free day, and then the day turned up, and it was a bit cold and it was windy. But I was like, no, I'm not going to put that up. Let that put me off. I'm going to go out in the wind because it's good practice of riding in that sort of weather. But I do remember that ride where I got the 92 miles per gallon was, I literally had it full throttle everywhere I went, just getting the bike to go because I was in the wind and I was climbing uphill. And likewise, the ride that I got the highest miles per gallon was when I went over to the lakes. So I was on a lot of kind of 60-mile-an-hour roads, just in the same gear, tootling along, and I always use super unleaded. So whichever brand I use, I always put super unleaded in. I was told to do that by the garage when I bought it. Not sure if it makes any difference on a 125. As for keeping the engine clean and maintained inside, I don't think I'll have the bike long enough to have that effect, but at least to have any difference on it. But at least when I sell it on it and say, look, it's been run on this, it's been looked after, blah, blah, blah. So like I said before, I think the reason that my miles per gallon is rising is because of the weather. I know in the summer I get better consumption in my car than I do the winter because it's using more fuel to keep it running in the cold and blah, blah, blah. So I reckon that's one of the reasons. But I think the other reason is when I first got the bike, I kind of felt obliged. I don't know, like, it was my first bike and I felt like I was in the way on the roads. So everywhere I went, I was flat out. You know, if I was on the dual carriageways, I was trying to get to speed as quick as possible and whatnot. Where now I've chilled a bit, I don't feel like I need to prove how fast the bike can go anymore. Does that make sense? I don't know if anyone's had the same. I kind of like, because it's a 125, I need to make sure, I need to prove it's actually fast and I can keep up with traffic. Where now when I go out, I just keep up with traffic. You know, if I want to do 50, I do 50. If I feel like I'm slowing people down, I will speed up. So I think my riding's matured somewhat as well in the last kind of 6 months. But yeah, so I just realistically, if you equal it out, worst 92, best 119, you know, I think you're looking at 110, you know, miles per gallon, 100 mile a gallon now, 100 miles per gallon plus, I would say, for a tank if you're riding averagely. Yeah, and yeah, so I was saying, I think you could expect realistically to get 100 miles per gallon plus out of a gallon of fuel, which I think super duper. I would say that on the dial, you know, I get an average of 120 to 140 on the actual prediction that the bike thinks it's going to get, which I think it's a little bit like the Speedo. It's a bit optimistic, you know. The Speedo's a lot faster than what you're actually doing, and I think the miles per gallon works on the same theory as well. So yeah, I would say anyone who's thinking about getting a Honda CBR 125 for commuting with the odd blast out, you're going to be looking at 100 miles per gallon plus, just riding it sensibly. And like I said, I've very rarely, you know, taken to the top end of the revs now. I don't need to. I don't think you achieve much from doing that. And therefore I'm getting more better consumption out of that. So it's just something I thought I'd cover on the bike. I've chatted about it previously on my lakes video, but I just felt that I had a bit more data to back up what I was saying now. I haven't found any particular brand of fuel seems to get better consumption, but I do tend to use Esso or Shell because they're the two garages that are on my route when I'm commuting or leaving home. I've used Tesco's super unleaded a few times. Can't say I found a major difference in the consumption. There's an argument that supermarket petrol's not as good as proper brand, but yeah, I haven't found any difference. So I hope you found that interesting. Probably not. I'm a bit of a data geek. If you haven't found it interesting, then sorry. And I would just like to say I got over my 100 subscribers last week. I think I've got bang on 100 now, which I'm super chuffed about. It's, like I said, a pittance for most people, but for me, 100 subscribers is super duper. So I would encourage, if you want to see more content, I've tried to mix bike and car up a little bit tonight because last week's car barn got good views. The one before didn't. I don't know what people are here to look for, but like I say, I don't know what people are here to watch, but like I would say, I would subscribe, and my titles will be very clear, the content that's going to be in there, and feel free to pick and choose what you want to watch. As the summer goes on, I might pick up on different subjects. When we'll go away, we'll go down to France. I'm sure other bits and pieces will crop up, different rides. I want to do I've actually registered for the ride for Dave, which is the celebrity chef who sadly passed away a few years ago. There's various rides leaving different parts of the country. The main ride's London to Barrow-in-Furness, but there's lots of other rides joining the convoy. I'm hoping to find a group that are going to link up that is 125 friendly, but unfortunately, with me being on the CBT, a lot of the rides do kind of link up on the M6, so I'm a bit restricted. I've bought myself a make my own way ticket there, so you know, if at the end of the day there's everyone's going to do the M6, I'll just make my own way. I've kind of plotted a route that I can get over there without hitting any motorways. Having said that, I'm going to get into communication with a few riding schools this week about seeing if I can get my mod 1 and mod 2 done. So I'll not get that done by June, but you know, if I'd like to try and get my full license by the end of the winter. But we'll see. Money and time comes in with that one, so we'll just see what happens. But yeah, so like I say, if there's anything you'd like to see or anything you'd like to hear about, just drop us a message. I've had a few nice comments on a few videos, and it's lovely to get involved. And if you could just subscribe, that'd be really, really good. Thank you very much. And if I could get 110, I'd be so happy. But I hope you enjoyed listening to us. And if there's any more questions you want to know about the miles per gallon, I think I've explained pretty much what you should expect. But feel free to drop me a message in the comments. Okay. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll be back soon. Goodbye.